Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with another episode here on the Fantasy Headliners. I've got 4 storylines that, to me, are very interesting as we head into really the heat of the offseason. And these are 4 things that I'm going to be paying very close attention to. And I want you to be paying close attention to them as well, because not only could it send shockwaves throughout the entire NFL, but they could impact fantasy football rosters greatly when you sit down to draft your teams in 2021. And that is why these are so important for you to be keeping an eye on and really tracking as we start to head into the tagging period, free agency, the draft is coming up, all of these things. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pumped for it. I'm excited. I'm here for it. Bring me that fire, NFL, because I'm ready for it, baby. Before we jump into the content, though, I've got a couple of things, 2 things that you need to know about right now. And number 1 is we have expanded here at the Fantasy Headliners. We've got a brand new YouTube channel called Headliner U, and we are going to be taking you back to College 101. For those of you that want more information on rookies, for guys that are currently in college, the next wave of NFL stars, this is going to be the channel you all want to be subscribing to. So when you get done with this video, type in Headliner U and you'll find that channel. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button. My boy Chris Chouse is going to be leading that up. We have got tons of people in on it as well. Chris Kennedy is going to be doing some stuff, a new addition here to the channel. Kane Fossil is going to be doing some stuff as well. So I cannot wait to see the content that they are going to be pumping out over there. Number 2, if you're into fantasy baseball, I worked my butt off on the very first fantasy baseball draft guide here for the Fantasy Headliners. If you head to thefantasyheadliners.com, you can get yours right now for the low price of $9.99. So if you plan on playing some fantasy baseball, this will 100% help you bring home some fantasy championships here in 2021. Enough of that. We got to get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the top storylines to watch here in 2021. Now, right now, I've got 4 of them, okay? There could end up being more, obviously, as the offseason goes on. But what are those storylines going to be? Well, number 1, where will the quarterback dominoes fall? This obviously is probably the biggest one at this time because we've got Russell Wilson right now, who is apparently unhappy in Seattle, has not demanded a trade whatsoever. And will he move? Probably not. I don't expect him to go anywhere. But his unhappiness is something to keep an eye on. Maybe not this season, but as he gets older, he's going to want another Super Bowl ring. He could be looking to make a move at that point. Number 2, the big name that's been floating around all offseason long, Deshawn Watson. Where will he end up? Does he end up anywhere? Does Houston force his hand and keep them there? I don't think so. I think he gets traded. Apparently, there's been a list of suitors that have been thrown out there of where he may want to go. A lot of people at this point still thinking the Jets, potentially the Broncos. Maybe Chicago tries to get into the bidding. I don't know what they plan on doing at this point. But we've already seen Matthew Stafford traded for Jared Goff and a couple of firsts. We've seen Carson Wentz move to Indianapolis. There could be some more offseason moves at this point. And not only that, but you got to keep your eye on a couple of other quarterbacks as well. Drew Brees, it was said he would end up being done. I haven't heard an official retirement. He hasn't come out and said, I'm done. Phillip Rivers did. Drew Brees hasn't. So a lot of people right now are operating under the impression we won't see Drew Brees in 2021. I haven't heard anything as of yet. If Drew Brees comes back, the difference between him and Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill or whoever it might be is huge. If Drew Brees is the starting quarterback in 2021, Michael Thomas, obviously viable. Alvin Kamara, obviously viable. One of these other guys that play wide receiver, who knows, because Emmanuel Sanders could be a cap cut at this point. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Tre'Quan Smith, does he continue to take another step forward? Do they draft somebody? Do they bring somebody in free agency? Jared Cook is a free agent. Is he out the door? Does Troutman end up taking over at tight end? I mean, there's lots of questions to be answered, but one of the biggest questions could be Drew Brees. If we find out he's coming back, we're still scooping up these guys. If it's Taysom Hill, we got to be careful. If it's Jameis Winston, might have to be careful as well. But Drew Brees, we know what we're getting with him, 100%. Okay? And then also Ben Roethlisberger. At this point, he said that he wants to come back and play, but they still got to get something done with his contract. They've got to get some things moved around so he doesn't have nearly the type of cap hit that he currently does. Can they figure out something with that contract to get him to a point where he's comfortable playing, comes back for another season, and they still have plenty of money around him to make some moves? And then also my boy Dak Prescott. What's going to happen with him? Just a little bit floating around right now. Do we see Dak potentially sign and traded? That's one thing that's been coming up right now. Do they sign him? Do they put the franchise tag on him and then end up trading him? Like, what do they do with him? At this point, if you're Dallas, you got to win now. So you got to have a quarterback. Dak's probably your best shot at this point. Get something done with Dak. Some people have speculated that maybe it's a Dak for Watson, and Dallas also throws in something else. Could something like that end up happening? Whatever it may be, that's another quarterback domino that has to fall. And of course, there's still a lot of questions in the draft. We've got some guys in the draft. We all know that Trevor Lawrence is one. He's at the top of all of our draft boards. But do the Jaguars really end up taking him? Yes, I believe so. I'm not buying anything that other than Lawrence is going to go to the Jaguars at 1 overall. But then what happens after that? Do the Jets end up taking a quarterback? Is Justin Fields the number 2 quarterback off the board? Is it going to end up being Wilson? Is it going to be Trey Lance? Where does Mac Jones end up falling to? Do the Carolina Panthers make a move? Do they keep Teddy Bridgewater? Do they draft someone to replace him? This is the most crazy situations that I have seen in the offseason at the quarterback position in my time doing this. So yes, we've still got a lot of offseason left to go, and there could potentially be a lot more dominoes to fall that affect everybody around us. Because when you make changes like that at the quarterback position, you're affecting every other position on the field. Number 2, Aaron Jones. Now, let me tell you something about Aaron Jones. Kind of came out the other day that Aaron Jones could be getting about $15 million per year in free agency. Hold on. I just got lightheaded. Give me a second. For a running back, Aaron Jones, I love you. I love you, man, but you're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy, Aaron Jones. Listen to me. I like Aaron Jones. I think he's a great running back. I think he could do some real damage going somewhere and being the number 1 guy. But Aaron Jones, if you're shooting for $15 million a year, especially in this year, that might be a little too spicy. But here's the thing. I don't think he's coming back to Green Bay. I'd be shocked if he re-signed with Green Bay. But this is why Aaron Jones kind of setting the market is really going to be what happens after this. Because Aaron Jones, more than likely, if he goes somewhere else, he's going to go to a running back needy team. He's not going to go somewhere and probably compete for touches unless he's going to like a true team that can win it all, and he's willing to do that because he wants a ring. I don't know if that happens, though. He's still young enough at this point. Get paid, go somewhere, be the running back 1, get yourself maybe a 3 or 4 year deal if possible. And if that happens, then when that's done, yeah, maybe you go be like a 1B somewhere and you finish off your career with a winner. I think he's going to want to get paid this offseason. That's going to be his top priority. But if he goes to a running back needy team, well, there's some really good running backs in this draft that now at this point, they don't have a landing spot anymore. So Aaron Jones is obviously going to affect that, but he's going to affect the situation in Green Bay as well. A lot of people right now are hell-bent on A.J. Dillon being the number 1 guy there next year, but they seem pretty keen on bringing back Jamal Williams, and Jamal Williams has already said, I want to finish my career as a Green Bay Packer. If they bring back Jamal Williams and pay Jamal Williams, they're not going to bring him back and pay him just to be the 1B to A.J. Dillon. These guys are going to split touches. I mean, you're going to see the same type of split that we've seen from Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in the past. So while I like A.J. Dillon, I'm not running out there to make him a top 15 pick this offseason at the running back position. Okay, I'm going to be really careful with that. And that's why Aaron Jones moving right now can affect so many different things. Obviously, it affects him, but he's such a dynamic running back. Wherever he goes, he could instantly make that team a lot better. Let's say the Arizona Cardinals get feisty and they're like, let's bring in Aaron Jones. Let's make him our starting running back. They go get Aaron Jones and they bring him in. You don't think that that's automatically going to make Kyler Murray more dangerous on the ground and through the air? You don't think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have an opportunity to find even more open space? You don't think that Andy Isabella could end up taking a step forward? Christian Kirk could end up being a guy that we saw last season at times was a top 15 wide receiver? You don't think he automatically makes all those people better? He does. He absolutely does. So if he lands in a situation like that, not only does it affect everyone around him, it affects a situation in Green Bay, and it takes a spot where we thought a potential running back could go off the board for these rookies. Now, number 3, the next storyline to take a look at, cap casualties. Getting ready to record this, Duke Johnson, kind of that latest casualty where we've said, hey, we're going to make the cut right now. Keep in mind, one of the reasons why this is so much more important this season than in previous off seasons is because of the lowered salary cap. I mean, there was a possibility that the salary cap this year was going to approach 210 million. That's a lot more wiggle room than the 185 that they've basically landed on at this point. There are a lot of teams right now that are above that cap. And not only are they above that cap, they are way, way, way above it. All right, so let's take a look real quick because I pulled up the salary cap here. And again, the salary cap this year is going to be sitting at about 185 million, it looks like. We are assuming that it is 185 million unless something were to come in last minute and change that. As of right now, the team with the most cap space is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're at $82 million. Okay, there's a lot of teams. But if you scroll to the very bottom, it doesn't look that good. New Orleans is over by 66 million. The Eagles are over by 40 million. The Rams by 27. The Chiefs by 18. The Falcons by 15. The Steelers and Vikings by 7. The Packers by 5. The Lions by 3. The Raiders by 2. The Bears by 1. And then on top of that, you have several teams that are really, really close. If you're going to make moves in free agency, you have top draft picks to sign still. So then when you look at the teams like the Bills, who are only 3 under, the Giants 5, the Titans 5, the Seahawks at 11, right now the league average is about 15 million over the cap. That doesn't give you a whole lot of room to work with. All of these contracts that have been shelved out over the last few seasons have been with the NFL thinking that this cap is going to continue to go up, and it hasn't done that. COVID hasn't allowed that last season because of many, many opportunities not being there for teams in terms of marketing and things like that. But then, of course, not bringing fans into the stadium. So there are a lot of things still at play right now with the cap space. And that's why probably this offseason, you are going to see a ton of cap casualties. But here's the thing. Okay, and this is why the off-season workbooks that Chris Chouse does on the Fantasy Headliners are absolutely amazing. They're over on Patreon. You can get access to all of our exclusive Patreon content for as little as $5 a month. He does a team workbook on every single NFL team, and part of that breakdown is the cap space. What happens if different players get cut at different times? Again, like a post-June cut, you can spread it out over a couple of years. What does dead cap mean in terms of if we cut this guy, how much do we still have going towards the cap? Things of that nature. Chris does an awesome job with that. And that's how you really have to break this down. But this season is going to be absolutely insane because you're going to have teams that are going to want to make moves, but they're not going to be able to unless they get rid of other guys and move money around. It's going to cause a lot of players to become available on the market this offseason. And if that happens, not only is that an effect because of the teams that are getting rid of them, but then it affects other teams at that point as well. Like J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt at this point, he's done. Why? Part of it is the cap at this point. Okay, they want to get out from underneath some of that money. Obviously, they've granted him this and moved along from him because he has said he doesn't want to be in Houston anymore. But this is going to allow J.J. Watt, because, J.J. Watt is still going to get paid in some way, shape, or form. So maybe he does go to another team and take a little bit less money. I mean, that's a top-end defensive player that's available for maybe one season. You don't have to commit to him long-term. There's going to be other guys like that as well. Emmanuel Sanders is one to keep an eye on because of the Saints situation and the cap. He could be cut at any time so they can save a little bit of money. If they do, this becomes a guy that is now available, a steady wide receiver that could really go to any of these teams that need help at wide receiver, and maybe he takes a little bit less of a deal. Maybe he's not going to get a long-term deal this year, so he takes a one-year deal this year, kind of a prove-it deal, and then he comes back next year when the cap goes back up, hopefully, and then he gets an opportunity to make a little bit more money. The cap casualty situation is by far probably the biggest thing that we're going to want to keep an eye on as this offseason goes on, because there's a lot of players that could end up being cut from their team. Now, let's move over to number 4, no combine. Typically, I would say no problem, but for now, I'm going to say lots of problems. Like, what are we going to see now? Why does this make such a huge difference, Kyle? Well, let me tell you why. When these guys get invited to the NFL Combine and they go there and participate, and I've been there. Jake and I have had an opportunity to be there the last couple of years. Last year, we were there representing the fantasy headliners in the press pool. We got up and close and personal with a lot of the GMs, a lot of the players, and things like that. I'm so bummed we didn't get a chance to go this year, because it would have been absolutely amazing to be there again repping the fantasy headliners. But we got a chance to go there, and when these guys go to the NFL Combine, I mean, this is all official. I mean, it's official times, it's official measurements, it's official jumps. Everything is tracked multiple times. And this is the information that is spread throughout the NFL to all these people who are evaluating these prospects. This is the issue with the combine this year. The NFL has said, no combine, go do your pro days. These schools can submit anything that they want to. If they want to give a guy a little bit of a bump on his 40 to make him look like he ran a little bit faster, they can do that. Do they want to give him a little bit extra on that broad jump or a little bit extra on that high jump to see where those measurements come in at? Do they maybe want to take a little bit of weight off for those quarterbacks? Do they want their hand measurements to be just ever so slightly bigger? That's what we're working with this offseason, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely guarantee you, I'll put tons of money on this. I'll give everyone 100-to-1 odds that there are at least 2 people that break the combine 40-yard dash record this year. It's going to happen. Just watch. Just absolutely watch, okay? I'll give you my fantasy headliner salary for the next year on this, because these guys are going to run the 40, and these unofficial times that come in are going to be insane. We've been joking about it. Kane, who's going to be joining us here at the Fantasy Headliners over on Headliner U, is an awesome mind when it comes to college players and recruiting and evaluation and tape and everything like that. Him and I have been joking a little bit. We've been running some Call of Duty together, joking a little bit. He's like, yeah, there's going to be, someone's going to run like a 3 flat or something crazy like that. And I'm like, 10 people are going to break the record this year. It's just funny because that could happen. And what's that going to do? That's going to pump up some of these prospects. Because if there's one thing the combine does, it gets us excited about numbers from guys who were jumping around in teeny tiny shorts and barely any shirt. Okay? That's what we get excited about with the combine. It's going to be even worse with pro days when a lot of these teams can kind of help their players out a little bit and maybe give them a little bit extra or take a little bit off to ensure maybe their draft stock goes off a little bit. I tell you what, fantasy owners are going to be uber excited about some of these measurements, some of these times that come out. Be careful of it. Be wary of it, because some of these pro days are going to be absolutely insane to watch. But it's going to be fun. This is what the offseason is for. We're supposed to get overexcited about players. We're supposed to plant flags in the guys that we like. Okay? It's okay. that's what this is for. But those, as of right now, are my top 4 storylines to watch. So let me know down in the comments below, what is something that you're keeping your eye on this offseason. Do me a favor, not only are you going to comment, but if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. Hit the like button as well. If you appreciate the video, if you're appreciating the content, those likes always help us out a ton here on YouTube. And as a reminder, don't forget, the Fantasy Headliners Baseball Draft Guide, now available at thefantasyheadliners.com for only $10. And go subscribe right now here on YouTube to Headliner U. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you all tuning in for this video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.